Welcome to the RV Rental Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Maxon, and I'm thrilled to guide you through the journey of launching, growing, and managing a profitable RV rental business.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of RV Rental Secrets podcast. I'm your co-host, Garr Russell, with Stacey, Makin It Rain, Maxon. I like to do a nickname every time. Stacey, how you doing?
Good. I'm always anticipating what nickname you're going to come up with next.
I know, and I never know what I'm going to say. You know, I freaked my wife out a couple months ago at church. Our pastor asked me to come up and share a testimony, and I got down off the stage, and my wife looked at me like, "Are you insane? I had no idea what you were going to share." And I shared it, and she's like, "Okay, well, now I need to talk to the kids to make sure they're okay, because you literally just shared all these intimate details of our family life and stuff." So you're not alone, Stacey. I have no idea what I'm going to say. My wife has no idea what I'm going to say. It just happens. And then there we are figuring out, okay, any messes we need to clean up from what I just said. So, all right, in this week's episode, we are going to talk about paradox, and we're going to talk about the paradox of profits. And how this came about was I was listening to one of my mentors a couple months ago, Myron Golden. He was talking about the paradox of profits. He was talking about the paradox of peace. And he was also talking about, looking at my notes here, he was talking about the paradox of power, and he was talking about the paradox of persuasion. He was talking about all these different paradoxes. And then I was thinking the other day about a paradox. I was reading in Hebrews where it talks about working to enter into rest. And I thought, that's interesting. That's a paradox. Working to rest, those are like completely opposites. And just to put a little context here, as far as all this is, let me throw out a definition for paradox, because I'll be honest, when I started listening to Myron the other month teaching on this, I didn't know what a paradox was until he gave the definition. So a paradox is a statement, proposition, or situation that, despite apparently sound reasoning from true premises, lead to a conclusion that seem logically unacceptable or self-contradictory. So I'll say it in Garr terms. A paradox is a statement that seems to make no sense until you unpack it, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. So at first it's not logical. By the end of it being explained, it's logical. So Stacey, does that make sense? Do I need to give any more?
No, it does. I know when we talked before the podcast, you said what we were going to talk about, and I was like, okay, what do you mean by that? But yeah, in layman's terms, it makes total sense. And I'm excited to hear how the profit piece comes into that.
Yeah, so the paradox of profits. And so profits, and it doesn't necessarily have to be financial profits. It could just be anything that's beneficial, anything where you're basically gaining something more than what you had before. So the paradox of profits. And it could be an investment, time, money, energy. And there's one of the proverbs that I love that we reference many times, just rephrased, is in all labor there is profit. Or like Myron Golden says, all work works. He says, sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works on you. So sometimes we're doing things that we can immediately see a return, like, oh, that's cool. I put that system in place. I just gained 10 hours back a week. Or, oh, cool. I just put out that marketing campaign and I just got a 4x ROAS on that. And for those of y'all that don't know what ROAS is, it's return on ad spend. So that's a profit, that's a return. Or so it gains you time, money, energy. Or, oh man, look, I just went to the gym for the last 30 days. Now I can run X amount of distance further or lift that much more weight or whatever. And so that is the paradox of profits. And what's the paradoxical side to that? The paradoxical side is, let's go back to the gym explanation, is, okay, wait, so I'm going to lift a bunch of weights, which beat up my body and tear my muscles. and that's going to make me healthier. That makes no sense. I'm going to go do something that literally makes me sweat, causes a bunch of pain in my life, and that's going to be beneficial. Yeah, because what happens when you lift weights is you tear muscles, and then those muscles, when they grow back stronger and more. So it's another way that Myron put this is you get something, you get some letting go. You've got letting go before you can do some picking up. So what does that mean? Letting go so you can pick something up? Well, let's translate that over into getting the ROAS that I just talked about. What do you let go to pick up? You let go your dollars. So you put out marketing spend to get the ROAS, the return on advertising spend. Stacey and I, we've learned a lot about that the last year. Stacey, you want to talk a bit about that? The letting go of money to hopefully some more money will come back into the bank account?
Yeah, I mean, I think a year ago, I probably didn't even know what ROAS was. So, learning the whole process and being afraid to put more money into the business through the ads because you were fearful that you were going to lose that money. But when we had the systems in place and were tracking all of our data, we could see plain as day if we put X amount in, we'll get 4 times the amount back. And that's what the return on ad spend is, whether it's 4X or 10X. And if you're not getting back what you put in, that's when you have to take a look and make some adjustments on the ads. But yeah, we really came a long way in looking at, our beliefs of money and, being fearful to put that money in to see what we could get out.
Yeah, exactly. And money is such a good way to talk about that. Makes me think of Jesus's teaching in the Gospels. Like most of his teachings, he would teach about money because he knew that would relate to people's hearts the most, because money is such a precious thing to us, and so yeah, putting out ad spend or investing into different kinds of marketing or whatever you're doing. If you're buying RVs to build your business, which we do not recommend, we recommend the OPRV model, other people's assets, but still that's that step of faith is you're putting something out to hopefully get something in return. Just like a farmer puts the seed into the ground to hopefully get a crop, and that's what the paradox of profits is. It's something that doesn't seem to make sense logically, but in the end it does. And to kind of bring that back to the all work works, and the marketing side of things, when you're marketing, it might take you 30, 60, 90 days to figure out your exact messaging. It kind of makes me think of like when Facebook first started doing some of the ad stuff. It was like the boost, you could boost a post, and it's like boost your post for $5 and you boost it for $5 and you're like, oh, cool. That got in front of 210 people, but nobody bought your thing. You're like, well, marketing don't work. Now what do I do? And no, it's a consistent thing. It didn't work. You have to figure out why it didn't work. And one of our mentors, Russell Bronson, talks about there's 3 parts to your business. There's to your marketing, there's your hook, there's your story, and there's your offer. So there's your hook, which is your headline that gets people's attention to get them to stop scrolling. Then there's your story, and then there's your offer. So like for us, for the Fireside franchises, our hook is attention Christian entrepreneurs, attention RV rental owners, attention those looking for franchise opportunities. Then there's our story that goes into talking about, hey, there's this industry that's like Airbnb on wheels, and we call it wheel estate, and it's renting RVs. And then there's your offer. Hey, come to our webinar and learn about our franchise opportunity. So yeah, that's the paradox of profits. So I'll just go ahead and share a couple more paradox to just kind of help really drill this idea of the paradox. So, and again, this is coming from one of our mentors, Myron Golden, the paradox of peace. So, right, we want peace. We want peace in our home. We want peace in our country. We want peace around the world. Well, the paradox of peace is you have to be willing to fight. So if you want to have peace, let's say in our marriage, in our home, Well, you have to be willing to fight for your marriage. So you have to be willing to sit down and have hard conversations. You need to be willing to sit down. Okay, we've got to figure out our budget because the way things are going, like Dave Ramsey says, there's too much month at the end of our money here. So you've got to be willing to sit down and fight for, okay, where is our money going? What do we need to do to, fix our budget situation? Why is our communication always end up in arguments? We need to sit down and figure out what happens. What am I saying or you saying, and how am I interpreting it to where all of a sudden we're in this huge argument and we're on the opposite sides of the house? We have to be willing to fight. We're going to go on to the last one here. The paradox of persuasion, because this relates more to business here. The paradox of persuasion. It's the willingness to put other people first. And so again, and we're grabbing this from one of our mentors, Myron Golden, obsess on solving your customers' problems. Okay, obsess on solving their problems. People are going to see that and they're going to buy from you. So when you obsess on solving problems, so if you're obsessing on your RV rentals, you're like, okay, let's say a lot of your RV rentals go to state parks. Okay, what are the biggest problems that you get when you're camping at a state park? Well, when you're camping at a state park, typically it's not a full hookup. So with that being said, with it not being a full hookup, what are some of the big complaints you get? Oh my gosh, the gray tank is full. I can't believe it. We only took 2 showers. Why is it full? Well, because you took 2 20-minute showers and it's a 40-gallon tank. Or, oh my gosh, this camper smells so bad. What's going on? Well, it's because the tank is right below the toilet and you're not at full hookup. So and your kid is standing there dropping Cheerios down the toilet with their foot on the pedal. So if you obsess on solving that problem, which the cool thing about it, right, is it's actually going to lower your problems as well. So how do you solve that problem? You do a really good job of communicating, hey, here's how that works. And because how that works, here's what we recommend you do. Try to take showers at the shower house. Try to do, just number 1 in the toilets. Try to do these things. And we put extra toilet drops below the toilet for you. So when you're obsessing on that potential problem and you're putting their needs first above yours instead of, right, we talked about this in the last podcast, responding instead of reacting. So you're saying, hey, we've done all these things proactively for you. You're going to cut down on your customer complaints since you've obsessed on their problems. And what are you going to do? You're going to increase your business because they're going to be super happy customers and they're going to tell everybody in the world to rent from you, and on and on and on.
Yeah, and the conference I recently went to, there was an author, Kevin Brown, and he was the keynote speaker. And he talked about how customers will only talk about you 2 times: when you exceed their expectations or when you don't meet their expectations. And they're always going to be louder when you don't meet their expectations. So yeah, communicating and educating them up front of what they should expect is going to help that you're meeting their expectations or exceeding them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even post-COVID, that's just, we haven't got back to treating a lot of each other like humans yet. And so, yeah, the customer complaining and this and that. And that's one of the big things that people put over your heads, right? Well, if you don't give me a full refund and this and that and send us to Disney, you're going to get a 1-star review. And what do? We quickly are like, no, don't. I'm on the website right now booking your Disney tickets. Do not give me a 1-star review. And so, yeah, if we're doing a great job of communicating, obsessing on their problems, that is really going to make their life easier, give them a better experience, and make your life easier. And on that note, if somebody threatens you with a 1-star review, again, don't react, respond. And this comes back to the love and logic that I was talking about in our last episode. One of the things they say as parents is, well, that may be, or probably so, or I don't know, or that could be. So just these very disarming statements like, hey, that could be that you're going to give a 1-star review. And I'm sorry to hear that, but my goal is to not worry about that review right now, but to just, continue to help you guys have a great experience. So, and then what do? You give them 2 powerful choices that they can make. And so, and with the 1-star review too, you can actually use those for the positive, because you can if you're obsessing on your customers' problems and their experience, and you know you do a great job of that, once you get that 1-star review, you can, because what do we do naturally, unfortunately, as humans, we go towards the negative. That's just how our brains are wired. So someone's going to click on that 1-star review as soon as they see it when they're deciding to book with you. If you have a phenomenal response to that 1-star review, yeah, I do remember how that happened with the situation. And also, if you recall, these were the solutions that I offered. Actually, I'm happy to send screenshots of the conversation when you were cussing and yelling at me, and I was responding politely and offering to do this and that, and continuing to try and help you. Somebody's going to see that 1-star review, and they're actually going to side with you and have empathy and sympathy for you, and say, "Man, I love how they handled this person that obviously was a jerk customer," and you can literally turn that negative into a positive.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, sometimes no matter what you do, you're not going to make people happy. So just, remain level-headed and stick to, your systems, your processes, what you know, or how you want to run your business, and, other people will see it.
Yeah, and that really kind of comes back to the paradox thing, right? Like you think, well, no, a 1-star review is going to ruin my business. That's just makes sense. But the paradox of it is you could actually have that great response. I literally just 30 minutes ago was on Airbnb looking at booking this resort for my daughter for her sweet 16th birthday. And what was the last review was a 1-star review. So what did I do? I naturally clicked into it to see what it was. The customer had all their complaints, and then below it was this beautiful response. They weren't bashing the customer. All they were doing is they were addressing the complaints, not the customer. They were like, yeah, like we mentioned, the internet, that's actually provided by the resort, not us. So sorry to hear, that happened. Oh yeah, and you kind of blow it up. Oh yeah, and I forgot. And like I mentioned in the text to you earlier, we actually put in a support ticket with them, and they sent somebody to your room to look at it, but you wouldn't let them in the room. And their policy is, you have to give the approval. And they just did such an eloquent job of responding to that 1-star review. I literally was like, oh, I would book with them. And I didn't even look at all the 5-star reviews. I literally made my decision based on the response to a 1-star review.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's so illogical to think that way, but that's, what makes it perfect.
Yeah, it really is. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, hopefully this episode blessed you. And just remember the paradox of profits. And this really ties good to our last episode. So if you haven't heard that, go back and take a listen to that. And just remember, respond over reaction. Take a minute, take a breath. It's not that difficult. Like my grandma says, is this going to matter a week from now? Is this going to matter 30 days from now? The answer is no, it's not. You're going to forget, and life's going to go on. So we just want to encourage you guys. Yeah, you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work. Keep grinding. Keep working hard to serve your customers and your family, and give the rest to God, and He will take care of it. So we will see y'all on the next episode. Thank you.